Hello everyone, my name is Hubert and welcome to Teach Me channel. Today we'll be looking at GCSE Maths percentages. We'll be making a couple videos on that, guys, so today we'll be making a first video and I will explain everything about fractions, decimals, percentages, and most importantly how to convert between them, because I think this is the basis. If you're gonna do anything with percentages, this is the basis of any percentage question. Most percentage questions will involve some conversions between fractions, decimals and percentages, and this is what we need to cover first before we get into the nitty-gritty of the percentages themselves. So, without further ado, let's get started. Now, like I said, we have fractions, decimals, percentages. They are three different ways in which we can express the same values. In these ways we can express when something is a part of a whole, we can express how much of a whole something makes. So for example, if we cut a pizza into 4 slices, we can say how much of those slices are mine, how many of those slices are yours. And we can use those three things. We can use fractions, we can use decimals, we can use percentages to determine a part of a whole. So, now since we can express the same thing in 3 different ways, we need to understand how to convert how to convert from fraction to decimal to percentages and back. So now the simplest way to think about it is like I drew here, a three-way system. So from fraction going to decimal, going to percentages. And back, we can go from percentages back to decimals, back to fractions. And once you gain more experience with this, you'll be able to jump straight from fraction to percentage. You'll be able to see straight away how to do this. But for time being and for the purposes of this video, we will work like this. From fraction to decimal to percentage until we get more comfortable with percentages. So, first of all, we start with a fraction. And here's an example, 13/20. That's our fraction we start with. And we are going to try to get to percentages this way. So first, we want to convert from fractions to decimals. Now, the simplest way to do this is to divide the top by bottom. Nice and simple. You just grab your calculator and you divide 13 by 20. Top by bottom. Why? Because simply top is the numerator, it tells you what part we have, and then bottom is the denominator, which tells you the whole. What is the whole? So we have here, for example, 13 slices of pizza out of 20 slices of pizza. So we divide top by bottom. And that will give us a decimal. And now here I will give you a little trick. If you don't have a calculator, you can convert from fraction to decimal by expanding this fraction or by shortening it to the nearest, so to make that denominator nearest 10 or 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 or million, basically the nearest big number beginning with 1, essentially. So here, for example, we have 13/20. 20 is bigger than 10, and we cannot really shorten it to 10. So the most appropriate way to do this is to get the denominator to 100. So 20 times 5 is 100. So we need to multiply the top bit, denominator, by 5 as well. So we multiply 13 times 5, and we get 65 out of 100. And now that division becomes very easy in our head, because we will know that if we divide 65 by 100, we just jump 2 decimal places back, giving us 0.65. So just to recap, you can divide top by bottom straight up using calculator or whichever way you divide. Or you can sometimes take a shortcut and expand the whole fraction to the nearest 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, you get the gist, right? Okay. So we went from fraction divided top by bottom, got decimal. Now, from here, we will want to go to percentages. And how are we just going to achieve that? Well, this one is pretty simple. Percentage, as the name suggests, is a part of 100. So basically with percentages, everything has to revolve pretty much around hundreds. So, for example, 2% is 2 over 100. 5% is 5 over 100. So the easiest way to convert from decimal to percentage is by multiplying by 100. Very simple. And because we're multiplying by 100, all we gotta do is jump 2 decimal places forward here. So we go from 0.65 to 65%. And that basically means 65 out of 100. That's what all of these mean, long story short. So here we have 3 ways to express the same value. Now, what if we want to go back? What if we want to go from percentage to fraction? What do we do? Well, what we can do is we do basically the opposite here. So if we go from decimal to percentage by multiplying 100, we go from percentage to decimal by dividing 100, guys. So we just jump 2 decimal places back, and we are here at 0.65. Okay, now what happens if we want to go back from decimal to fraction, guys? Well, this is where it's slightly different, because going from fraction to decimal, we just divide top by bottom, long story short. Now, here, to go back, what we have to do, first of all, is to, like I've written here, put value on top, and then decimal type on bottom. So, this may sound a bit cryptic, but what it simply means is that if we have 0.65 here, the value will be 65 on top, and then decimal type on bottom. Long story short, what it means is here, because we have 65, we have 2 numbers. So that's basically out of 100. If we had just 0.6, one number, that would be out of 10. If we had 651, for example, 3 numbers, that's 1,000. Basically, the amount of numbers we have after decimal place is the amount of zeros that follow number 1 at the bottom, if you see what I mean. So here we put number 1, and then we have 2 numbers here, so 2 zeros, guys. So basically 65 out of 100, and that's how we convert from decimal to fraction. Now, of course, if possible, we need to shorten that fraction. And if we were to shorten it, this is what we would get, essentially. We got 65 out of 100. 100 can be divided by 5, and so can be 65 because it has a 5 on the ending. So 100 divided by 5 is 20. 65 divided by 5, guys, is 13. And that's how we will solve the conversions between fraction, decimals, percentages in 99% of cases, guys. And what about that 1% that is too difficult to solve? Well, one sort of special case is when we have recurring decimals and we want to convert them to fractions. I mean, otherwise it all stays the same. If we have a recurring decimal, we can still convert to percentages by multiplying by 100, and we can still convert from original fraction to that recurring decimal by dividing top by bottom. But what if we want to go from recurring decimal to fraction? Now, this is where it gets a little bit more complex, but don't worry, I'll explain it step by step. It's once you know the method, it's actually pretty simple, guys. So, how do we do this? So, for example, here we have an example of a recurring decimal, 0.34. I put the dots there at the top, meaning that this number is recurring, so it will repeat. So, in reality, this fraction would be 0.3434343434, and it will go on forever. Now, how do we deal with that? Because we can't put decimals at the top of the fraction. That's not the most correct way to do this. So putting the value and then the decimal type at the bottom, that wouldn't quite work out, because we will still have that 0.34, and so we're not fully converting to fraction. But we can use a little algebraic trick to achieve this. So, what do we start? We start with 0.34 recurring, and we put that as an x. So this is x. Our decimal is basically x. It's equal to x. And then the next step is to isolate the number, the full number. So essentially, here we need to jump 2 decimal places forward to get the full 34, to sort of to have the decimal in front of all the recurring bits. So here we need to jump 2 decimals forwards. So how do we jump 2 decimal forwards? Well, we multiply by 100. So 100x is equal to 34, but we still have that 0.34 recurring. Now, for example, if we just had 0.3 recurring, we wouldn't have to go to 100. We could just multiply by 10 and do 10x. But the point here, the whole idea is to isolate a full number, to get all these recurring bits at the beginning and to create a full sort of number out of them. And then, but back to 100x. So at 100x we have 34.34 recurring. So we still have that recurring bit. But if we have 0.34 recurring equal to x, if we take away 1x, we get rid of the recurring bit, leaving the 34 behind. So 99x is equal to 34, because 99x basically is equal to 34.34 recurring minus 0.34 recurring, and that gives us 34, guys. So we are almost done here. So now, to get 1x, i.e. our fraction, our original fraction, to get 1x, we divide by 99, right? So x is equal to 34 divided by 99, and that's our fraction. So we converted 0.34 recurring to 34 over 99 as our original fraction. Now, of course, if you can shorten it, then go ahead and shorten it. So this in the end may look a bit different. It won't be always over 99 or 999 or 99999, because you can shorten it. But in this case, I think we have to leave it like this. I can't see any way we can shorten this. So this is how we deal with recurring decimals and when we try to convert them to original fraction. So to recap, we take the original decimal and we make that x. Then we create a full number out of that decimal. So basically we want to jump the decimal all the way forward to make us a full number. So we might have to multiply it by 10, we might have to multiply it by 100 or 1000, depends how many decimal places we need to jump forward. So we do that, and then we take away 1x to isolate the number without all the recurring bits. And then what we're left with, that will be our essentially fraction, because we'll be dividing this number by this number, giving us this fraction, guys. So this is it for today, guys. I hope this video helped you immensely. If you think this video helped you, give me a big thumbs up. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate when you guys watch my videos. If you want to stay up to date on daily math, science and some biomedical sciences videos, hit the subscribe button below. And don't forget that we do now have our own Twitter page. So to access our Twitter page, open up the channel page, the Teach Me channel page, and click on the right hand side of the banner, click on the Twitter button. That will take you straight to the Twitter page, which is full of content, such as videos and some motivational posts and some even science and mathsy jokes. So there's plenty for you guys to check out there, so make sure you guys do that. Thank you again for watching, and see you next time.